Hi, I'm Randy Simmons for Eye on Arts. I have here with me a very special guest from Chicago. This is David Leonardis from the David Leonardis Gallery, and he happens to also own and curate the Howard Finster Vision House Museum. It's a traveling exhibition, hence the images behind us. But today, for this session, I'm going to pick David's brain on how to get artist work into galleries, and Dave is a wealth of information on that's very helpful to artists on how they can approach galleries and get their work on gallery walls. So, David, thanks for joining us again.
Thank you, Randy. It is my pleasure.
You're a very, very interesting person, and I think it's great to hear from a curator's point of view some do's and don'ts for artists. So, you've had a gallery for how long?
20 years.
20 years. So with 20 years experience, you've seen a lot of probably craziness happen, people approaching you the wrong way. So could you share with us a little bit on some techniques of what not to do in approaching your gallery curator?
Sure. Yeah, it kind of, well, I know you teach the survival skills class, and so I was so pleased to get to speak to your class and really have that personal interaction with the artist. You know, the art world, it's kind of like looked upon as this big mystery as how to break into it and everything. And really it's focusing on business, I think, is one of the most actual important things that you can do. You want to make sure your art's up to par, but it's the art business. So if you want to make art for yourself and for your family, that's one thing. You don't need any help from me. But if you want to make art that is for an art gallery, there really are just kind of a variety of just basic rules that I've kind of put together, and always work in a series. That's a fantastic
I like that
thing.
idea. You mentioned that to the class, and I think that was a really helpful tip.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, when you have an artist, and I think I learned this from my good friend Howard Finster, that works in a series, that the art in that series works well together. The client, the viewer, is looking at the art, and they have this feeling that, you know, when times are right and money is, you know, ready for purchasing, that they want to buy more than one piece. And so sometimes you have the pieces of art that actually connect and play physically together, the images together. I remember I had an artist, this was in the 1990s, and we did two really interesting shows. This was Bob Christie. I used to call him the incredible nomad folk artist, Bob Christie, because he would travel around the country doing art shows in his RV. And Bob, he painted a painting in, I don't know, let's say it was 20 by 20 feet. And he put hash marks on it throughout the one large painting. And when he painted it in mind that the different sections of the painting could be sold. And so we sold the art by the foot. And Bob whips out with his scissors, and people are like, okay, well, I want those 3 sections, and I want that one section. And I think some people were a little shocked, and of course you take a picture of it when you start, but he cut up his painting with the scissors, and I have pieces of canvas. I got 2 sections of it, and so it was a series within one painting, but then it was cut to be turned into a series. So that was a really, really interesting thing that I'd never seen anyone else do.
I've never heard of that either. I mean, the first thing I'm thinking of, it sounds like you're at Subway's and you're ordering a sandwich. You know, I want those tomatoes and, you know, this lettuce and whatnot. You're just getting sections of it.
Subway, feel free to give us a call and sponsor the West Kentucky Community and Technical College and the Howard Finster Vision House Museum. But another one that Bob did was that he painted a whole painting. It was on wood. It was the same idea. It had some backing, and he whips out with his jigsaw And so it was the same thing. It was a large painting and different images, and you could pick different portions of it and give that a cutout. Howard Finster, when I first saw his art, there must have been a good 50 different images. And Howard Finster, he had so many different images that he used them in a monotype fashion. And so it's Howard holding the Bible and the Abba-gorilla and the bunny and the baby doll image and the Uncle Sam image. And so he would, those were cut out on wood as well, and then he would repeat those images because they were popular, and he would create them all individually. So working in a series is a fantastic thing. Another survival skill right off the top before we forget is never hand an art dealer your slides or request the portfolio review in the middle of an opening that's for someone else. That's someone else's time. And that artist did whatever they had to do to get into that show, and the art dealer had to work with that artist, had to choose to work with that artist, had to curate that show, had to pay his rent and bills that month, had to make sure that the space is all done up correctly. And at that point, the art dealer's job is to sell the art. And the artist that is there, their job is to help the artist to sell the art as well. And I always went out of my way to create a personal interaction with the artist that I was working with, because I knew then that they were going to kind of be able to help me out with it. Now, that kind of has its pitfalls along the way as well, but in the ideal situation, the artist is there and they're all friendly and they're chatting up the clients and they're getting them interested in the art. And when the client is, sharing with the artist that they're interested, the artist says, "David Leonardis, come on over here," or they just go like this, and I understand. I go on over, and I've already said hello and introduced myself to really everyone who walks in during the gallery event. That's one of my survival skills. Is, again, it's business, so you have to. People are kind of scared when they come into an art gallery. Sure, yeah. They're not familiar unless they have an artist in the family or an art dealer in the family. And they're basically afraid they're going to be yelled at and made to feel stupid. And that is, I rejected that idea, and I welcomed people. I would thank them for coming. They would feel comfortable. And when they would say, "Oh, I really like this piece," and I would say, "Well, why don't you buy it?" And they would say, "Oh, well, I'm not sure I can afford it." And then, a good business person that I am, you got to overcome all the objections. And I would say, "Well, why don't you take advantage of our MasterCard Visa acceptance options and the DLG payment plan? They work very well in tandem." You want to make the art available to the people. Again, if it's art that's going in a gallery, you have to understand that that art is then going to be released into these people's homes. It's going to be in their collections. It's going to be viewed by their friends and family, and then passed on to friend or family, or sale if they choose. Once you buy, here's another thing though for the as far as the artist is, you have to understand that as an artist, once you paint that art and then you pass it off to the art dealer and you give it to, and the client buys it, they can do with it what they want. Now, actually, I think there are some different rules in California about then resale of art, but that's nothing that I've ever really had to experience because I've never really lived in California. So, what are some of the other survival skills? Well, here's a good one. I have a particular artist that I'm very friendly with, and his name is Christopher Makos. And Christopher Makos was very friendly with Andy Warhol. And Christopher lives in New York, and he travels around the world with Calvin Klein in his private jet. And they're, looking at art, buying art, traveling, doing different cool things and whatnot. But Andy Warhol told Christopher Makos, and Christopher Makos told me, and I'm here to tell you what Andy said. So that's only a couple of degrees of separation from the crown prince of pop art.
That's right.
At one point, Andy Warhol, I believe, was the highest priced art sold at auction ever. So way to go, Andy Warhol. I'm very interested in what he has to say. And he said, when in doubt, add a zero. How do you like that? So, you know,
I love that.
I might have bought some art at the beginning of my career. It was $400. I held on to it. I built an art rack. I rotated my collection. These are some of the things I can say a little more specifically in a second. And then through the years of promotion and increased sales of the art, and then sometimes, you know, the early work is more valuable than some of the later work, and then sometimes the artist is still kind of really learning in the career, and then their later art actually becomes more valuable. But either way, I have art that I've bought for $400 that I've sold for $4,000. So when in doubt, add a zero. Now, here's another story that I like to say, and I had a particular artist, and she was painting on window frames, which was a really cool thing, because one of the other recommendations that I have in the arts is that when you create the art, you create it so it doesn't need to be framed. So, you know, you're the artist and you sell, you know, your cut's $200, the gallery owner's cut is $200, the client buys the piece of art for $400, they take it to the framer, and the framer says that's going to be $600. So if you had created the art so it didn't need to be framed, then maybe you could have sold it for a little bit more in the beginning. So that was a fantastic thing that she was doing right. And but she wasn't really working in a series that was attractive enough. And so finally she came up with this fantastic concept, and I'm trying to not name her, and the people were so interested, and her series was fantastic, and I sold 137 paintings in 2.5 years. Now, one of the cool things about those paintings that she was selling was that they were $500 to $900. Now, $500 to $900 is this category, this amount that people, well, maybe instead of taking a small vacation, they're going to buy a piece of art and they get to vacation in their home and look at that art and have it and enjoy it. And, you know, $500 to $900 you get on the David Leonardis Gallery payment plan, and it's a couple of $200 payments in your deposit, and you've got the art. Well, she moved to another market, and that market was, the art would sell for more. But when she came back to Chicago to do the show, the lowest price piece of art, smallest one, was $900, and then they went on up to, I think, about $3,500. Wow. So if I sold 137 paintings in 2.5 years, $500 to $900, and then we do the new show right after that, and we still kind of have the same collectors are jazzed up to come and collect more art by that same artist. How many pieces of art do you think I sold at that next exhibit?
How many?
0. So she had kind of alienated her base by pricing the art at a price that they were no longer willing to pay for it. Now, maybe she was able to take that back to another market where the people are willing to pay a little bit more for the art. But you have to be careful that, you know, once you have a collector who's interested in buying, they're your friend now. You see the collector come in, you might see them more than you see your own family. Hello, how are you? Come in. And oh, I'm so glad that you're here. Let's show you some art that you might be interested in. And it just in that particular case, and that was just a good example. See, art is worth what you can get for it. And you can get different prices for art in different markets. But if an artist comes in and they have, I would say, an unreasonable expectation of a price that they would like to get for the art, I don't even go there. And I say, well, I'm sure you have fantastic art, and I wish you the best of luck with it, but I don't think that's going to be a good fit for my gallery. You know, you have to make the art affordable for the people, unless you're just marketing to the elite. And then in their case, then they would like you to add 2 zeros onto it, so they feel even better about putting that on there.
You brought up something, and I don't think it made it to our classroom talk, and that's the boyfriend-girlfriend factor. And I really think that there's something to that.
Really? Okay. Well, through my personal experience, what I have found is that, you know, my job is to jump up and down and say, hey, look at me. Look at this cool art that I've got. Look at what I'm doing, creating some attention. And then, of course, you know, the artist will like that because I'm saying, well, look at them and their art, right? But what I have found, and almost invariably, is that after you start having a good amount of success with the artist, and then the artist-art dealer relationship, you know, you might be spending a little bit of time. The artist's boyfriend or girlfriend or husband or wife gets jealous, and they kind of put a monkey wrench into the deal, and it can really become a problem. And I don't know that there's necessarily a fix for that unless you want to stay single, which could be an option. You know, I've had the experience where, you know, where my girlfriends were like, well, why are you spending so much time with the artist? Why aren't you spending more time with me? It's like, well, that's the business. That's what I'm doing. That's how I'm going to pay the rent. And you have to really kind of watch out for that, because I've had it become a problem over and over and over again.
Wow. I've never heard that angle before, so that's quite unique. So when somebody's coming in to bring a portfolio into you, just any basics there, and I ask that because I've actually seen a handwritten resume before brought into a gallery. So that's a huge no, and you would think that would be a no-brainer. So do you have any no-brainer tips?
Well, first of all, I mean, if you've gotten to the point that you're doing that portfolio review, you probably, had sent in a submission and had gotten a call back, or you called and then followed up, and the artist the art dealer is willing to give the artist some time to go ahead and look at the art. I would say for sure, try to pick your gallery according to the style of art that the gallery is going to do your homework. I personally, I like abstract art. I have a little abstract art in my extremely extensive art collection, but I cannot sell abstract art. The people expect, my clientele, my reputation is that I'm a contemporary art, pop art, folk art, photography, collection of late 19th, early 20th century French lithographs dealer. And the people, they come there, I make people feel comfortable, I create a great environment, and they come into that environment and they're expecting to see pop art. They're expecting to see the new pop art I've created. That the artists have created, that I've brought in. They're expecting to see who the new photographers are that I have. And so, basically, like you said, do your homework. Don't target a gallery in the wrong way. Not necessarily as much for portfolio review, but once you're there to be exhibiting art, if either you're shipping the art off to the gallery or if you're showing up with it, always have a wire on the back of the 2D art.
Thank you. I've been saying that for a long time, too.
I mean, I just can't imagine like why the artists don't get that, and then especially when it becomes a challenge is they're out of town, they ship the art to me, I say, okay, I'll hang up the art, I get the art, and we lay it out, and then you like turn it behind, and you're like getting ready to hang it on the wall. There's no wire. How am I supposed to get it up on the wall? I guess that one's going in the back. So yeah, that's definitely one thing. A few other things is always ask for the sale. When the client is there and they're kind of looking around and they see some of the art and they say, well, I really love this piece. My response, well, why don't you buy it? And you have to ask for the sale. And then they say, oh, well, I'm not sure I can afford it. Why don't you take advantage of our MasterCard Visa acceptance options and the DLG payment plan? I know I said that one. I can't stress that one enough. That's really to make the art affordable and make it available. I mean, I don't care if it's $40,000. I remember I was buying a piece of art. It was like $2,000. And the people let me get on the payment plan for a couple $100 at a crack. Maybe I put $400 down and I made payments of $200. And then eventually, I got that art and made that available to me. Another thing is that the great collectors rotate their collections. And so you can, of course, tell that to a client when they say, oh, well, I already have too much art. Well, the great collectors rotate their collections. Oh, well, I don't have any more room in my place. Build an art rack. 4x8 sheets of plywood work really well. And you put some racks in there and you have your board or paper in between and to rotate the collections. And, really, when you do rotate your art like that, you get a fresh perspective on art that you've had and
Sure.
that you might not really be, you put a new set of eyes on it. And so that's a good thing. And in general, create an environment where people are interested in collecting art. My personal theory is that art collectors are better, more well-rounded people, and that if you're sensitive enough to be supportive of something like art and the influence that that will have on your friends and family and yourself and the creativity, as opposed to, you're just only worried about your own little constituency and I don't know what else it is. I mean, I'm not here to talk about politics, but I've basically found that if you collect art, you're quite a bit cooler and more interested in giving forth to the community than if you don't collect art and you just worry about your little constituency.
Right. Now, gallery curators, they typically, or gallery owners, they typically get 50% of the artist's sales.
Sure.
And a lot of people don't realize what the gallery owner has to do, the expenses that the gallery owners are out in order to promote that artist.
Well, I mean, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of expenses. I mean, it's the gallery, and then the artist will say, oh, well, I have the studio, and then, you have to, maintain the gallery, but you have to maintain, having a gallery for years and years and years and years, it creates a sense of comfortability with the clients. So they know that they can come back to that gallery, that they can, ask questions, and as well as the gallery owner, when I'm creating the client or to be available to the situation, that's my client. And I have to tell you, and there are many artists that do not do this, and kudos to them because they're the right kind of artists to deal with. But there are many artists that will do what I'm about to say, and that's just totally unacceptable, is when the art dealer turns his back and you've got the artist and the art dealer and the client in the room, and the artist gives the client their card, even if that client is my friend. Well, sometimes they're my friend and then they tell me about it later. But sometimes, there's someone that I'm friendly with, and the client wants the art, so they want to be able to collect it and they want to get it at, a great rate. So, an experienced client isn't going to play that game, because then he's going to go, ooh, that's not really all that professional, is it? That the artist is trying to cut out the dealer, who that's how I met the dealer. And I would say, along with, as I talk about business, it's the art business, you got to have integrity in the art business. And as with any business, that's not always the case. And certainly within the art business, there have been instances where that can be a problem.
Right. Well, there's other things, other costs that the gallery are out. Like well, the rent. Paying the rent for one. I mean, that's an obvious one. Then the electricity. Sure. You have promotional things.
Press releases. You've got emails, and just time spent on point to create that gallery environment. So
I think a lot of people forget those parts, and certainly the gallery owner is well worth that 50% cut.
I always find that if you're invested in a situation, then you're more likely to do well in that situation. So, when I pick an artist, most of the time I try to buy or barter some art with that artist to get that going. And then if I've had success, and in particular, one artist that I had sold quite a bit of his art, it would get to the point where I knew I was going to be selling some art, and he'd be bringing in a new series, and I'd be really interested, and I'd say, well, it's 50% if I sell it, and that's if we sell it, or I'll give you 25% right now. And I think I know in the one artist that I'm speaking of, I had great success with that, and that artist had some immediate money. I'd sell that piece or collect it for myself is also a great option. The thing about being an art dealer is that you have to sell the art that you love. And the people, very often the clients, they want the art that is in your collection.
Yeah.
And so what I've had to do on many occasions is, when I buy a piece of art, wrap it up and put it away, and nobody gets to see it. And then it's, down the road when I can have a separate area. And, I sort of opened up my apartment to bring in some people into it, and collectors and friends. And right away they're like, oh, can I get that one? And I'm like, this is the private collection. This is for me. I should get to have some art. I had the feeling that when I was kind of, in the art business maybe for a few years or so, that if at some point I was going to get out of the art business, that I wanted to make sure that I had a really, really fantastic collection of art. And again, focus on collection of art. In my art collection, I have pencil drawings, I have woodblock prints, I have silkscreen prints, I have photographs, I have paintings, large and small. I personally don't collect sculpture. There's too much schlepping right there, and opportunity for breaking things. That's just, for me, not the way to go. But then I know some people that they only collect sculpture. So having a diverse art collection, it gives your brain stimulus in all these different levels, and then you find that helps you in all the different aspects of your life. Certainly if you're an art dealer, but...
Well, you've certainly stimulated our brains here with this discussion. I'm afraid we're going to have to come to a close. We can go for another hour and talk about this.
Fantastic.
It's such a wonderful topic. David Leonardis, thanks for joining us. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much again, Randy.
And
my
we've
pleasure.
Enjoyed your company and having you in our class as well. That closes this show, and I'm Randy Simmons for Eye on Arts. Thank you for joining us.